Good morning, folks. So a greeting to the people that I'm looking at, and also a greeting to the virtual audience, the webcast audience, and to any future viewers of the webcast as well. So my job today, as I see it, is to reignite your interest in mindful eating. Because arguably, mindful eating is sort of a boring pastime, is it not? I mean, how much fun can you really have paying attention to food? Maybe a moment or two, right? And to some extent, you guys have all, as clinicians, been exposed to the concept of mindful eating, and maybe you arrived at a conclusion that there isn't really anything else to it, although that might not be the case because you wouldn't be here. So I presume your mind is open to other possibilities and other possible uses of mindful eating. So my job is to sort of broaden the picture and introduce some new skills. But as for this particular moment in time, what makes most sense to me is to break my own fast. After all, this is one of the very first things we do in the morning, right? We start most of our days by breaking our fasts. So I picked up this apple in the gym of this hotel, and I'm going to go ahead and use my non-dominant hand to handle it, because that's a choice we could make, even though we usually don't. But with that, we happen to leverage a little bit more extra awareness. And I'm just going to find a nice spot to bite in. It's viciously green. There is something very ominous or menacing about its greenness. I'm not sure I would have noticed that in the course of any regular day. The skin is tough, but it has a good balance of sourness and and sweetness, a hint of sweetness. I would expect a green apple to taste sour, wouldn't you? But is that necessarily the case? Does green have to be associated with sour? So how much of this is my own mental projection? And how much of this is the actual reality? But this is all fine and dandy and trivial, but let's focus on something even more miraculous about this moment. And that is that I just collapsed a duality. What duality? Well, here was this apple, right? And here was me. Object, subject. This thing existed in its own right. The two of us, if I can say so, arrived at this moment through very different pathways. But all of a sudden, we collided. I entered into a kind of marriage with this matter. As I took a bite out of this apple, I touched it, but it touched me too. I connected with the world, but also with myself. So this would seem to be an entirely trivial moment, and yet there is so much potential existential significance to this if we just stop and slow down and partake in all the possibilities of this moment. But it still blows my mind that I am becoming this thing, literally. We are made of the things we eat, right? We're made of matter. We're made of matter that we consume. To live is to consume matter. There is a absolutely necessitated metabolic turnover between us and our environment. There is no life without the environment. There is no ego without eco. So the curious thing about this is that there is a certain kind of self-referencing circularity going on here, because as I digest the sugar out of the pulp of this apple, that very energy is powering my mental processes that allow me to say what I'm saying right now in this very moment. How marvelous, is it not? Taking a bite out of a tree of knowledge, taking a bite out of a tree of self-knowledge, all at the same time. So this is what I mean by trying to reignite your interest in mindful eating. There is so much more to it, and that's the case that I'm here to make to you today. Everything on this planet is made of this planet. We're all made of earth. Everything we eat is made of earth. So here we are, earth eating earth. And as you eat earth, you become the earth you eat, and someday you too will be food. So again, what a curious circularity. Earth is eating itself. Sounds almost erotic, does it not? And maybe it should. After all, mouth is an erogenous zone. And is it any wonder that the pleasure of wonder comes with dropping our jaw, and so does eating? So as we connect to the world, we also connect to ourselves. There is a possibility of some metaphysical, spiritual, philosophical, existential, ethical recognition of our own future selves. This is about to become a part of me. And just perhaps I could acknowledge it in a kind of fleeting namaste, in a fleeting kind of hello and what's up kind of greeting. I am becoming this, and this is becoming me, and I'm arguably becoming this. So the big idea behind mindful eating, as I see it, is not just manage your weight, let alone lose your weight. The big idea really is to shift from a sense of I to a sense of awe, to shift from absence to presence, to shift from non-being to being. Technically, this moment didn't really bring me to life. I had all the vital signs going. I'm not a holographic projection. I'm as real as it gets. But in a sense, I was a zombie, because this is a spiel with which I start my workshops. So how alive am I really now if I'm on autopilot? And even though it might sound like I'm right now mindful, am I really? Because I'm regurgitating the well-rehearsed lines. But when I take a bite out of this apple, the script stops in my mind, and I pop into existence. I come into life. I shift metaphorically from non-being to being. After all, the word existence literally means to stand out. If I'm not mistaken about my etymology, existence is Greek for ex stasis, to stand out, to pop out, to notice yourself on the backdrop of reality. A thought you're going to hear me repeat throughout the day is that mindful eating is yoga. Yoga means union of body and mind. Mindful eating is union of body and mind. So it's not a hatha yoga, but although there is some movement involved, and there is a bit of an asana as you assume an eating posture, but it's more of a Raja yoga, the mind yoga. And what a value added. So here we are, well positioned to take care of ourselves several times throughout the day when we sit down to eat, and we usually don't. Those moments tend to be very trivial. We want them to be auspicious and meaningful and significant, but more often than not, they get lost in all kinds of distractions. But if you were to allow yourself to look at your eating moments as moments of holistic body-mind, total self-care, then all of a sudden you've got a meditation practice that is piggybacked on the activity of eating. And that's what I mean by this idea, a platform of dosed self-care. It's just like that fentanyl patch, for pain control. The idea behind a fentanyl patch is sustain the release of opioids throughout the day so that you have, adequate level of pain management. You eat with utmost regularity. This is about the most stable common denominator. We all try to have 1, 2, 3 meals a day, and we usually succeed. So if those moments become moments of contemplation, meditation, of existential significance, that you've got a kind of fentanyl-like patch worth of meaning that is being dispersed throughout the day. It's giving you existential calories, not just nutritional calories throughout the day. So that's what I mean by platform of dosed self-care. Mindful eating can be a platform of dosed self-care.